I'm the HR business partner here in the Singapore office. So what I love about Big Titan is definitely the people here. A lot of amazing, intelligent people, and for the place is all this food.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Esther. Thanks so much. Hi everyone, it's Brad Rosero here. I'm actually here in Singapore at the Bittitan office. And what I want to do today is give you a bit of a tour inside the office, get a bit of a feel, have a look at the engine room, maybe meet some people, get some introductions. But hey, let's go. We're actually going to walk into the office now. Maybe I've got a security key. This is our social hall. Most people might not have seen this. We've got TVs, we've got some music playing, we've got some food, we've got some drinks. Happen to place, a lot of the music. We've got a pool table, so we'll keep walking down here. And we're actually trying to get into the engine room pretty soon. Let's have a look. Today's not looking too good, we've got a bit of haze going on in Singapore, but the weather's still great. Now let's have a look and see. There might be some, might be a little bit of noise here, but let's go into the engine room and meet some people. Yeah, so now I'm actually in the office. Now this is where all the, I suppose, the action actually happens. And what are we doing? Tim, I think I'm interrupting a couple of people. Hey Sharon.
Hi.
Hey, can you say hi to some people on the video?
Hi, everybody.
Hey, what do you love about Bittitan and Singapore office?
I love everything here. I love the social hall, and of course, the most important thing is that which office have Sharon Lee? Only Singapore office have Sharon Lee. Okay.
How cool is that? That's amazing, isn't it? Okay. Thanks, and I think we've got a new guy here. Hey, what's your name, man?
Hi, man. My name is Aaron, and I just joined Bittitan 2 months ago. And yeah, I love the people here. The great booths, great environment. Awesome.
Hey, welcome, man. Welcome. Let's get out. Who else have we got? Oh, let's have a look. I think this is the customer service area. Now these guys are really, really important to us. So let's have a quick hello, maybe to Chan. Chan, what do you love about Bittitan, man? What do you love about working in Singapore in the office?
I don't love Bittitan. I love our customers.
Oh, right.
Customers are satisfied.
That's pretty awesome. Let's keep going. Let's go further down. Let's have a look. We'll get going. We won't keep it too long, guys. We've got more people sitting here. We've got Dev Chair. We've got everyone. Hey, man, how you doing? Yeah, everyone. Yeah. Look at those guys. We're all just working hard. Man. Who we got over here? Who's this? Oh, Can you explain who you are? What's your name, man? What's your name? What do you love about Bitseries?
Hi, Brad. How
Hey,
you
how you
doing?
doing, man?
Hey, I'm Manoj. I manage the engineering team and I'm also site leader here in Singapore.
Awesome, thanks. And what's the best thing about coming in every day?
For me, it's our office, just the space, how beautiful it is, and the colleagues. Everybody's so nice to speak with. And Sharon has a great laugh, and we love working with
We
her.
love that laugh. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, man. So, let's go down. So down here we've got the rest. We've got some meeting rooms, and we've got one more key area. Where is it? This is the office. We've even got some treadmills. If you want to work and have a bit of a good time, all sitting down here.
All right. Okay.
Hi guys, can you hear us? Please leave a comment if you hear us.
Let us know if you can hear us. And I think first of all, thanks everyone for joining today's session. So today is actually our first Bit Chat session, and today we have Thomas, which is our APAC technical specialist, and Stella, which is our APAC solution sales specialist, and myself, Darren. I'm the account manager for the APAC region. So I think today we wanted to do something different. I know that we have been going to a lot of webinars regarding the new product updates about BitTitan, migration weeks, so on. But today we just want to be a little bit different in terms of the context and providing you with some information in a very casual. You see, we are all sitting on a beanbag. I think
You want to give some context where we are
beautiful,
sitting at?
beautiful place. This is definitely not my place. This is actually in our office, BitTitan Singapore office at Fusionopolis. So, interestingly, we came back to office and really having a 1 meter distance. That's what you see. We just want to bring a little bit more vibes and also, how our office actually look like with all these beanbags and in a very casual setting. Yeah. So I think, let me see, is there any questions at this point? Probably not. So how we want to do, if you were to look at the subject of this chat session is 7 things you may not know about O365 migration. So it's going to be a very conversation. I'm just going to have a chat with, of course, Stella and Thomas about 7 things that you may not know about O365 migrations. But at any point of time, feel free, drop us the questions. We're more than happy to answer. Leave a comment. We'll be, answering your questions along the way.
Yeah, no problem. I think it is our first stream session, right?
Yeah.
So obviously we're a little bit nervous, even though we don't look nervous.
I know the set here, desperation at the back.
Well, fumbling.
It will mean a lot if you guys leave comments so that we know you're there. We just want to make sure that someone there, right? If our colleagues, feel free to leave comments as well. Or if you're a partner and you are joining us during this session, even better, because that's what we are here for, basically to share with you some of the insights that we have as a total of APAC team, right? And this is not the entire APAC team. We still have our amazing sales director that sits in Melbourne, Australia, and we have some colleagues over here in Singapore as well.
Mhm.
And so I guess if there's no questions, we will probably kickstart our 7 points, right?
Yep. But I think first of all, we know that Stella and myself, we're probably in the business for quite some time, and Thomas is a new addition to our team. I think first of all, maybe Thomas yourself, tell us more about yourself and what's your experience and so on. Just do an introduction of your role and
Sure.
definitely what's your experience from there.
Yeah, so I'm the technical sales specialist newly onboarded to support the APAC, NZAC, Australia region. Joined BitTitan around, I think, 3 months back, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, so previously I've been working in consulting firms with NTT, and even right before I was working with IHE's Integrated Health Info Systems. We were managing KTLO, keeping a system upkeep. And then thereafter, I was in Dimension Data, which now known as NTT, doing consulting related stuff for O365, more on hybrid migrations, on-prem migrations, exchange to exchange, as well as T2T. And interestingly, I was an ex user of BitTitan products, migration leads, and that's how I actually got to know Darren and Stella. So in fact, I got in touch using migration leads tool for quite some time. That was about, I think, 3 to 4 years back. And then right there after I joined Telstra, we have a consulting arm known as Telstra Purple, mainly doing hybrid modern workplace implementation. Yeah, and here I am right now in BitTitan.
There's a lot of change. I think we also spoke about a couple of things on our experience, prior to even you joining BitTitan. I think it's an interesting point that, myself and Stella also agree that there's a lot of experience from you from a domain standpoint. But I think not in particular on, let's say, migrations, but in your prior experience, what are the things and really the challenges that you see in the market or in your project that you have done with? We know that project is not always smooth sailing, right?
Yeah,
but what are the key challenges that you normally face previously?
Yeah, so previously, when I was in the consulting arm back in the previous companies where we were actually managing and implementing the migration process and all, there are a few key takeaways that, based on my past experience, that maybe I can share.
So it's things like, for example, migration plan. That is very important. So being technical folks, usually we want to dive in straight to the project and start on things, right? But more often than not, there's planning involved. Not just project planning. You have your migration plan, you have your cutover plan, you have your communications plan. So briefly, migration plan typically, you take in running of some PowerShell, getting of the statistics, knowing the SE's environment, and then thereafter you plan the migration accordingly, transit to 2B scenario situation where you want to be at, facilitate the migration, do the communications with the users, make sure that they're aware of downtime, and if you're migrating in batches, for example, in a hybrid scenario, you have to batch them up accordingly based on departments, based on geographical locations, or based on team level, so on and so forth. So there are a lot of all this planning involved typically before and prior when you do a migration. And right direct after, it will be service transition. So service transition in the sense where you do the handhold with the admin within the company. Once you're done with the tasks, you don't just exit and pull out immediately from the project. You have to conduct training, O365 administrator trainings, for example, PowerShell commands that to make the administrator's life easier, etc. So all of this, to be really honest, sums up as one, it is planning. So planning to me is a very big challenge. You have to understand the SEs, the 2B, create the plan accordingly, and from there execute it, and then do the handhold and transition over.
Yeah, you brought up a very good point about, I think we always have this question, not only myself and Stella we encounter, is they'll talk about, hey, do you have any end user post-migration, do you have any end user guides on how user can adapt to these changes after? Is there anything that they should be aware from a user communication standpoint? This is probably one of the a lot of time when we engage in engagement and project, this actually comes up quite a bit. What do you think about the end user communication piece? How critical is it to make it a successful migration?
So again, just now, like I mentioned, communications plan is very important. It's important to know like when the users should expect downtime. Especially during DNS propagation, when you are trying to move, say, a tenant to tenant, you are bringing the domain over from source to destination, you are updating your CNAME, you are updating your auto discover, updating all the necessary DNS records or MX and stuff like that. So all of this needs to be propagated down to the user to let them know that there's a certain downtime in that. So I think that's one. Secondly, you don't want the user to be in shock, not knowing that when migration will happen to them. For example, imagine the user log in and they suddenly see their email address domain change, for example. That might come as a shock to them, right? So I think at the end of the day, you don't want that to happen. So that's why communications plan is definitely very important. And lastly, when you do the transition as per what you mentioned just now, typically, last time, what happened is before knowing migration risk, so I'm not selling migration risk here, but before we got into touch with this product itself, we have floor walkers going around trying to do Outlook refresh, for example. So you go into the control panel, you recreate the Outlook profile via the auto discover, you'll be connected to the destination. So right now, there are definitely tools that can enable us, and definitely I feel Deployment Pro is one of them, where you deploy the DMA, which is device management agent, it gets the status back, and then from there you can actually schedule the profile cutover. So that when the user comes in to office on Monday, for example, you are able to push this to them, and then they just have to key in their UPN password, and then they will be able to log into their email directly. So there's I would say lesser user intervention in that sense.
And especially when now I think a lot of people are working from home. Not connecting to, maybe there's a VPN and maybe it's through just internet and not connected to the company network. I think probably this is important too, that a lot of customers actually leveraging off. And I think even for myself, when I was doing my own testing, it kind of helped me because it's pretty much seamless. But I think this is also one topic that we can also touch on. If there's any questions around that on the Outlook reconfiguration part. I think today we spoke about, see, we're having such conversation, but we forgot there's 7 things that we need to tell and we need to share
We have
today.
actually been talking about part of the
Really?
7 things anyway. Yeah.
Unknowingly, we are.
Unknowingly, we are imparting the skills.
Yeah.
These 7
I've been
things.
like trying to, shift the questions, based on the topic you guys are having.
Correct.
But I think, especially like Deployment Pro, I just want to talk about an example. I mean, because all of us from BitTime, we like to do testing all the time because that's what we always tell our partners: do test. So we also like to test ourselves, and we have tested Deployment Pro ourselves before, and I mean, it broke big time. And then we're like, oh no, what's happening? And that goes back to the same statement, right? Like sometimes there are like end users that would think that, oh yeah, this is probably just GPO network install, and then I can just go. But there are so many layers in the process that might be a problem, because such as the Deployment Pro thing breaks, it must be a tool problem. But sometimes it might not be coming from a tool set problem, but it's more of the whole planning, implementation. Was there anything that's going off? So I mean, just additional question. I know it's not part of our 7 question, but Thomas, what would you think it will be something to look out? Because after all, BitTitan is more towards getting the partner to advise. And what kind of advice can we provide for our partners, and on this kind of scenarios to look out for?
Yeah, so actually maybe I'll rewind back a little. It might sound very cliche, but typically when we worked last time for this kind of migration plan, we will always account 5%. We call it the 95.5% failure.
Okay.
So for example, in every 100 migrations, we will account the 5% failure, for example, and from there we will try to scope it out before the failure happens. What is the possible scenarios that will fail, right? So thereafter, we will need the support personnel to sort of come in, dictate, okay, on this day, I migrate this amount of users. For example, I'm migrating 100 mailboxes. I'm expecting 5% of it to fail, which is 5 mailboxes. Can the support personnel handle this 5? So that's one.
Right.
Then going deeper into the technical aspect, Deployment Pro, or rather, when you do even Outlook profile refresh, we are relying a lot on the registry keys that you set, especially within the computer itself. Are you using modern off, basic off, auto discover settings? It's all embedded within the OS's registry key. So more often than not, there might be certain times, like for example, user does not have enough privilege. So when the registry key needs to be switched or needs to be removed, for example, there might be some issues in between, and that is why the profile doesn't refresh accordingly. So there are quite a lot of all these things that when you do a migration, you need to take note of. What I highlighted is just the very surface. So rightfully write down to the registry keys to whether your permissions, whether users have the necessary local admin escalation permissions to actually do the profile refresh and stuff like that. So there are quite a bit.
Do you hear a lot about, I think one of the things where now we are in a modern days, modern way of working, MFA. Right? MFA is always the thing that I have to get my things down, and this six digit or something, and I have to put in. How does it affect the profile? Is it that seamless?
So again, backtrack a little. What happened is with modern auth coming into play, using OAuth 2.0, and then at the same time basic auth, as we all know, is sort of Microsoft is probably going to disable it very soon. If not, maybe sometime next year, early next year. So I think the first thing first is we need to be prepared for such scenarios where you have modern auth being implemented, and then coupled with that will be your MFA, right? So rightfully for Deployment Pro itself, right now we are glad that I think a day or 2 days ago, we kind of have a new version of Deployment Pro where we cover such scenario. So not only do we support basic auth, but within our Deployment Pro module, there's a toggle for you to support MFA, and then profile refresh will be refreshed accordingly and seamlessly, without the user intervention for administrators to actually come in, step in, and then refresh the Outlook profile accordingly.
This is something that is very new, right?
Yes,
I don't think we have even sent a mail to update our partners.
Yeah,
yet.
I'm sure I'm not tested.
That is too much for us.
Yeah.
Beyond us, but we have the technical person that is Thomas.
Which is
To help us do all this testing and also to kind of help the partners out. Yeah, but this is something effectively like live right now, right? If
Yes.
clients are using Deployment Pro now, it's MFA supported.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think at the end of the day, if any of you is interested, simply going to MSP Complete Deployment Pro, you'll be able to see a toggle for the MFA. Just turn it on, redeploy the DMA agents down, and then it will be supported for modern off and supported for MFA. Yeah.
right. So with modern off, I mean, it's probably a security de facto that we have.
Yes.
Within Microsoft, it's of course, very very cognizant about. Then, I mean, moving on, how would the modern off, because traditionally, I mean, we talked about previous is migration using base authentication, where partners are using base authentication. But with the introduction, with modern off, how would it affect the partners, or would there be things that what
Any
things that
changes in the
changes in the
process, right?
tenant or the process?
So I think it all boils down to the segregation of the different workloads.
Okay.
Like for example, BitTitan, migration we talk about mailbox, we definitely do support this scenario. Probably just that your endpoint admin has to have the MFA turn off, for example. But the rest of the users, you can just turn on the MFA, just migrate as per normal. And on top of that, like what I mentioned previously, Deployment Pro actually supports for MFA. So end to end, it's already covered for this OAuth or modern off scenario. And then you have your other workloads, for example, your OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams migration, where I'm sure most of the partners or most of the audiences here know that we have app-based authentication. So we add the application in to be managed by the relevant respective Azure tenants, and then from there create a security group called migration risk, add in the user in, and then from there you use that to actually trigger the migration. So I think what's good about this scenario is that at the end of the day, you don't need global admin details. You can simply use like a non-admin user account, put it into the O365 the migration risk security group, and then from there do the migration of the workload accordingly. So with that definitely will actually I would say another way to actually perform your migration. And actually, frankly speaking, all modern all sounds like a very big thing.
It is
A very big thing. But yeah, at the end of the day, these workloads are definitely covered. And then don't have to worry too much about it. As long as like you guys are attending and listening to us, and we give you the tips along the way. Yeah, just abide by that, and then maybe like I said previously, do your migration planning accordingly. Yeah, correct.
So we talk about having the modern off. I think that's one of the critical point. And modern off is on the authentication part, that how we actually perform that.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that a lot of partners do not know, and they're asking is, hey, what are the permission required? Which is I think maybe out of the whole conversation, I have like 5-6 meetings a day. This pop up in every single meeting. What are the permissions? What are prerequisites I have to do? What are the permissions I have?
Yeah.
So can you shed some light on this one so everyone can actually benefit from it?
So maybe to add on to what Darren, Stella mentioned during course, we have all these permissions. The very first thing is that if any of you happen to be in a call with us, we will break down the permissions into more into the different levels across the different workloads. So for example, mailbox, you have your calendar permissions. These are all your so-called Exchange folder permissions. These permissions are stored in folder. Definitely we do cover that. But then you have your delegation, where on mailbox level you have send as, send on behalf, full full admin access and stuff like that. So in mailbox permissions, there are you can actually categorize into these two main permissions, and easily for send as delegation permissions, for example, send as, send on behalf. There are easily PowerShell scripts that you can do to actually sort of export this, import it into the tenant, and then you don't have to worry too much about that. Then you come into Teams and SharePoint. So Teams and SharePoint. So let me talk about SharePoint first properly. You have your document permissions. Document permissions, we mapped it end to end. And this document permissions coupled with the documents itself gets migrated over to the tenant. and then you have your teams.
Yeah.
And we all know teams is, I would say, in recent years, Microsoft actually introduced teams. Underlying teams, there's actually, your SharePoint sites. There's actually probably a bit of your OneDrive in there and other things, right? So essentially, when we talk about permission for teams, you have your teams membership. So teams membership, as an example, of course, if you guys use our product, we do cover that. And then with underlying teams, you have your document permissions, and all of this are, once again, it is covered under your teams migration. So for teams and SharePoint, I will feel that we have to segregate it very carefully. So we wouldn't want to, for example, in a SharePoint migration, move teams related sites over, or if that's a requirement, right?
So because what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a classic SharePoint site.
Yes, correct.
And there's a team site, which is a team SharePoint site.
Yes.
So as part of the move, what I'm trying to visualize is the SharePoint migration will manage the migration of classic site.
Yes.
While the team site will be managed by the team's migration.
Yes.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. So actually, Darren raised a very good point. So for classic sites itself, you have your document libraries. And then, when you go into individual sites, you have like a few document libraries.
Yeah.
Most of which are default document libraries that actually stores, like, for example, your site templates, your CSS design, your menu bar, how it looks like, and stuff like that. But more importantly, the actual document libraries, which contains the documents itself, as part of the SharePoint, is covered under the SharePoint migration. But whereas for teams, not only do we have the document underlying, SharePoint sites for teams that contains the documents, we have conversations, we have messages, and we have all the tabs and stuff like that. So all of this is usually you should separate it, segregate it, and all of this will be covered under the Teams migration itself. Yeah.
Okay, so it's two different things that they have to
Two different things, yes.
Understand.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions? I mean, just because we're chatting and just also looking at the comments. I think, do we have any comments? Or
They're pretty quiet.
they're pretty quiet.
They're pretty shy.
Should have some questions. It can be technical related, or it could be just asking
Or you
how
can
am I
just,
today.
Just leave a message and say hi, guys.
Yeah.
Yep, we'll really appreciate it. But I think one of the things where we come on this big chat session is really to provide a lot more interaction space, because we know that now people working from home. Of course, we are talking to partners regularly, but it's provide a platform for everyone. I mean, just really having the conversational kind of approach that we are hoping to bring to the partners and also the clients globally.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
especially in this region.
like sometimes you don't really have a project like right away.
Yeah.
So that you don't have a reason to talk to someone from like Bittitan migration ways. But having a stream actually allows you to, if you have a question, you can just drop a question.
Yeah.
And so this is not like a show, right? We're not really like doing a webinar.
Oh,
or
webinar,
show.
definitely. Yeah.
If it's a webinar, we will be really. I'll be on my bow tie. Really my formal wear. But I think it's something that we want to be really casual.
And probably won't be sitting in beanbags and all that. Be very formal, right?
And just as when we were asking about question, I think we already have one question that came in. Not technical related, but the question was just, hi everyone, is Bittitan hiring?
Do you see this? Okay, sorry. Because
it was different
laptops.
and there's
I
different
do see a
context.
question from Sarab, which is my partner.
Oh,
Hi.
So maybe I'll answer. So maybe I'll answer the hiring part first. I think it's not just, but it's good that there's definitely Bittitan. We are hiring, and I mean, I'm not sure if you're able to put this. Please refer to the link here. But
I didn't. I wish I knew that HR was asking this question.
yeah, then I'll be like, please go over here.
You can look for, if you know, honestly, if you know of anyone, Bittitan is expanding big time. We have two products. Today we are just talking about migration Biz, but we have another product over there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But both products are expanding.
Yes.
And we have our amazing talent recruiter. Just search Jiahui, Jiahui, and from Bittitan, and that she's the only one. Yeah, so you will be able to find her. And so that's on the question. But we have a technical question.
Please.
So anyway, guys, you can toggle the comments so that way you can see the actual questions.
That's all.
Yep.
Okay, let me try.
It is a live stream, so it's totally casual, right?
Yeah, I mean, sorry.
Just move around here and there. So Sarab was asking, which is one of the points we wanted to talk about. So just nice for Thomas right now.
Yeah.
How do you manage domain coexistence for large tenant to tenant migrations where big bang approach is not possible?
Yeah, so I think maybe before that, it has to see a definition of a big bang approach. Like for example, in migration weeks itself, you can do pre-staging and then followed by a full cutover. We do see over a single weekend where pre-staging probably will take weeks or months depending on the size of the the size of the migration itself. You definitely can do all the pre-staging. There's no downtime or whatsoever. Just what migration risk does is we just copy from source to destination within a set period of time, and then thereafter when you're ready, you trigger for your DNS cutover, for example, remove your domain, add it into your destination. You can actually do it over a single weekend, run a full migration, and then because previously I've already done the pre-staging, so which is like almost 90% of the data has already been copied over. At the end of the day, the remainder 10% is you can do it during over a single weekend during your DNS cutover. But if you were to even talk about even on a larger scale, for example, you are moving say tens of thousands of mailboxes, where you can't really do the pre-stage and then followed by the full migration approach, which I've shared with you guys just now. I think coexistence, you can look at it in two levels. So first thing is org sharing. Say in the T2T scenario, where you want to look up free busy statuses. Let's say some users will be on source, some users will be on destination. And definitely, users on two different tenants, but they are under a single business entity, right? So you want them to be self-sufficient, to be able to work with each other during this period of time where you are doing the migration, and some will be on source tenant, some are on destination tenant. So more often than not, for this kind of thing, usually you go into your Exchange admin, turn on org sharing, you input the tenant details, and from there, what happens is users are probably able to look up the free busy status. Okay. That's calendar-wise availability. Then you probably have to go into the level of mail flow. So, like for example, some users are still on the source destination. Some users are still on the destination tenant, for example. You might want to set up mail forwards because at this point of time, there is just too many scenarios, right? So this user probably has a mailbox in source and a mailbox in destination, even though it's still in the midst of migration, but he could be accessing both mailboxes at the same time. Yeah. So at the end of the day, in order to cover this, which is part of the coexistence scenario, you probably have to create, for example, mail forwards, where mails that is sent to the destination gets forwarded to, mails get sent to the source tenant. You have a mail forward from there, which forwards the email over to the destination tenant. And from there, users will not be afraid and they did not be paranoid of opening two mailboxes at the same time. They can have access to anything that's within the source because all the mails will actually be forwarded over to the destination. Yeah. And on a lot of other details, which probably, has to do, again, back to migration planning, even though it sounds very cliche, but a lot of unexpected scenarios that you probably have to map it out with your users. From there, make sure that all scenarios are covered. You have your migration plan, sign off, share with the end users, probably with C-level execs, for example, once they sign off the migration plan. Most importantly, execute it and stick to the migration plan, I would say. And from there, you have any unexpected scenarios can be handled expectedly. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's kind of interesting, right? Because like we do come across some of the enterprise projects that coexistence is kind of always a talk. But we also come across enterprise projects whereby Bittitan is winning like large amount of mailboxes, and we actually still deploy it in a cutover style, but we're leveraging on what Thomas was just saying on mail forwards and all these things. I mean, the last one I can recall was a G Suite migration that they wanted to keep coexistence, but we went through a conversation. It turns out that we just have to get the mail forwards activated, and that was kind of what we kind of went for. So I think boiling down depends on the actual requirement. What is the definitive ask from the client? Because from our team, we are pretty much experienced. We have Thomas. We have a whole another global team of technical consultants that they are pretty much here to consult partners, right, and make sure that you guys are all set. And I want to bring this point. I know I sound salesy at this point, but at this point, honestly speaking, we don't charge professional services. We
Yeah.
are having all these resources to help you guys prepare, talk with you, even if we have not gotten into the opportunity with you.
Mhm.
We just want to have conversation and just make sure that you know that we are hearing you, and we are. I mean, honestly, we are a small organization, right? I mean, we are very much keen to listen to what partners want,
Yeah.
because from your feedback, we know what is critical in the market, because we're not physically there. I mean, we're in Singapore, we can know what is happening in Singapore, but there's so many countries in Asia Pacific that operates a little bit different from Singapore, and we want to hear from all of you, what are the kind of scenarios that you're hearing coming up a lot. So if you hear anything, please leave in the comments. Yeah, and we can definitely talk about some of the scenarios that you are coming across. Yeah, so that's on the coexistence. We hear you, Saurabh. We will also talk with you. I'll talk with you separately, and then we can talk through those scenarios.
Yeah, I think it's some of these clients and partners that have been talking to us on a cutover style migration, batch migration, and it's pretty interesting how they actually manage with a very simple framework on certain scripting to actually fulfill the whole project requirement. And I was recalling. I recall one of that was 3 months ago that I had one of the the client. It's just building small little kind of like building blocks along their migration effort, and just execute along like what you mentioned about project plan, right? And all this scripting are done based on different batches over the span of like not short but 3 to 6 months, and how they effectively just manage it to mitigate all these risks, which is something that we are happy to engage a conversation, because with the help of Thomas and of course a broader technical team that can really help you in this sort of scenarios that we are happy to be engaged in. It's not only where we're just here being salesy. I hope we are not.
We're totally not.
Yeah, so I think it's an important point. And our two is really for you to leverage on is we develop something that's really want to be as close and be as relevant to what your requirement is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the point is definitely as close as what you are seeing in the market. And also on top of that, partners are our advocates, right? Because I think out there we are really just one of those that we don't have professional services at all.
Yeah.
I have to keep talking about this, because the thing is that end of the day, we're providing you with a platform and a tool. We have a couple of resources that you can use. For example, we have PowerShell scripts that you don't see on the website, but we do have quite a number of technical folks in BitTalent that actually craft that out for partners, depending on your scenarios.
So just to add on, we even have our own BitTitan SDK, our PowerShell package equivalent, where we utilize PowerShell commands, and also the capabilities that our tool brings, and then from there we have various scripts that in your scenario maybe you can bring this to discussion, and that we can actually share and automate certain things rather than doing it the manual way.
So what's the most important thing? Most important thing is that we don't charge. So that's the most important thing. And so we are basically just here to basically guide you through the process and let you know these are the things that we have for you. These are the things you can look out for. But at the same time, we know that there are also other asks in the market. We want to hear from you, because you guys are nearest to the action, and we would like to know, with the new changes, Microsoft is always coming out with something new, right? So there will be things that will constantly change. These are things that we would like to be in active conversations. Just know that you don't have to be in an opportunity to reach out to us. We're very friendly, as you can see. So you can always drop us an email. It's up there. You can drop us.
Finally we saw. Is it here?
We saw something,
left or right? I can't always get right.
Okay, so I think we have one more question. That was what we were planning for this session. Between SharePoint sites and team sites, and we talked a little bit about that just now, right? So I think on the broader scale, maybe shall we talk about BitTalent's new SharePoint migration? I think it's something that we also fresh out of the oven. This is very new. And Thomas, could you walk us through what we used to have on the SharePoint migration? Because honestly speaking, we probably have some partners that used us before, and those require certain things before you can deploy something, right? But what have been the changes so far?
So like what Stella has mentioned, we recently we are going to release the new SharePoint endpoint. And this SharePoint endpoint, previously, for example, the tool actually requires you to create, for example, a project and tag to a site. and you have different subsites. Each subsite probably you have maybe one document library, for example. You probably have to create that amount of projects in MigrationWiz. But right now, what happens is in a single project within MigrationWiz, when you do the SharePoint migration, you just have to sort of state the site collection, the URL itself. And then from there, you can just add on and tag on all the document libraries, all the subsites within the same site collection, put in the document library within a single project. And from there, you actually can select and then you can kickstart your migration.
Okay.
So to me, I mean, personally, I feel this is a feedback that actually we sort of always hear from partners and clients, where they say that using the free SharePoint tool, for example, you have to always create multiple projects to handle migrations between different document libraries, even though they are all within the same site collection.
Okay.
So that's one benefit to that. The other one, probably I would say, we actually support metadata versioning with this new endpoint. So I see it as a good thing, because at the end of the day, we do have customers, partners, once again, coming back to us, feedback to us that they have certain things, like certain versions, although we only migrate last time a single version over. But right now, with the support of migrating multiple versions of documents, right, clients actually, even you guys have the flexibility to actually choose how many versions to bring over, for example, within a single document. So these are actually some touch points of some of the things that we see with the new SharePoint endpoint rollout.
Have we talked about the Azure storage? Sorry, I'm
distracted
for a little bit.
So for Azure storage, what happens is say current partners or clients, if you guys are using the SharePoint itself, currently, as you can see, on the destination, for example, you have to have the Azure storage. If your document library is big enough, probably you can't do migrations within the 3 days, where our free Azure storage, for security's sake, we sort of refresh the key, the token. So we will encourage partners and customers to actually have their own Azure storage, provision it, and do the migration itself.
Right.
But what we are glad to sort of share with you guys is that there's no need for that right now. You can actually utilize our free Azure storage. We will not ask you to actually provision, put in input, for example, your storage ID, your storage name on the destination Azure storage. You can straight away just utilize what we have existingly and move and migrate and copy your document library accordingly.
So it kind of seamlessly, do not have to input additional storage. Just to facilitate that.
So
that's not bad. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Okay, so I think what has been interesting is also our constant improvement of teams. So I think very soon we're going to have some good news to share with everybody. But I think the most important thing that I like to share, because obviously I'm from sales, so have to talk about this.
Promo.
Yeah. So we currently have a Teams promo, and you're seeing on the website now, I believe, and that's going to be charged based on per team, and that's a per team group, right? And not going to be per user. There's been a change on the entire migration design. We've had Thomas, was there any data points you have on the top of the head, the kind of speeds? Because I would like to talk about our team migration speeds. It has been quite spectacular. Partners are kind of talking about it. They like it as compared to the previous version. Right?
So maybe before we even get into the speed, maybe I can share whatever that I know can thought of my head right now. First is that the new teams migration, you're able to select what teams you want to move. But more importantly, we sort of segregate it into 2 stages, where you have the structure of teams that is being copied over first, and then followed by the data. So what happens is that we don't text the Microsoft APIs with a lot of all these migration workloads at the end of the day. We sort of segregate them. Structure first, you have all your teams, underlying channels, and then followed by the data as well as the permissions. Back when we talk about your team's membership, talk about the document permissions that you moved over. Typically, off the top of my head, I would say, we are really seeing very good speeds, even though Microsoft on their end, sometimes they might have the throttling here and there. But we have been seeing good speeds of probably even up to one point something ish GB per hour and at the same time, we support a concurrency, of 30 or more. I have customers actually even setting that value, cranking that up to even 50, 60 teams, parallel migrations all at the same time.
Okay.
So
we have a case, right? It was like terabytes of data, but they migrated it within
terabytes of data. It's like
terabytes. I'm not
that's
gonna
a
say
lot.
how many terabytes, but I've heard that from our like global migration, there was like terabytes of data during the initial like beta testing, and it was only beta testing, and that result was spectacular. I think it was took only 3 days or less for the migrations. Yeah, so it was quite spectacular. Well, I don't know which client, so don't quote me the statistics. But it all depends on your testing. But the good thing is we give you license for testing. So these are not test licenses; these are actual full licenses.
Yep.
And you can always kind of reach out to us. And with that, I'm going to interject one question because Saurabh has been asking one question. So are the mailbox permissions copied during tenant-to-tenant migration?
Yeah. So for mailbox permissions, like for example, send as, send on behalf, all these delegation permissions, although we don't cover that, but that is also because there are certain limitations on the API that we utilize. But more often than not, this can be easily circumvented, where you can actually just have a PowerShell script, just to extract all the relevant permissions in a CSV file, and then from there you can just trigger another PowerShell, connect to your destination tenant, and from there just move the permissions end to end from source to destination. Yeah. Then another side of things, probably calendar permissions, which is, when you talk about mailbox permissions, like what we mentioned just now, we segregate it to the different levels. That for calendar permissions, definitely because we utilize the Exchange Web Services EWS's capabilities. So for sure, calendar permissions are actually covered as part of the mailbox migration itself. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
So sometimes like when you do a tenant-to-tenant migration, and customers are always asking about threshold, throttles, right? And I believe there was something new from Microsoft regarding increasing that throttling from AWS. Was there?
Yeah. So right now, this is actually something that maybe about 2 months back, I think quite silently, I think Microsoft sort of launched this capability, if I'm not wrong, this year June. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, what we know is that actually you can go in, for example, to your admin center, and within the admin center itself, you can actually sort of request for the throttling bandwidth to be uplifted. So with that, what happens is that Microsoft will probably uplift that bandwidth restriction for that particular tenant within a certain period of time.
Is that like they can select? Sorry, I'm doing migration for 90 days. Can I select 90 days, 60, 120 days, for example?
Yeah. So if I'm not wrong, by default, I think is 30 days. Okay. But then within like what you mentioned just now, what Microsoft has made it a lot easier for the bandwidth uplifting by specifying a certain period, like you mentioned just now, and from there, once you route this ticket to from the admin center, Microsoft will actually take heed on that, and then they will sort of uplift that bandwidth restriction. And then from there, your tenant migrations can be conducted without being restricted. But then again, the restrictions is something that is actually useful in a way, because at the end of the day, we do not want everyone to happily migrate and there's no restriction, possible restriction, because at the end of the day, you have to remember that certain you have tenant level activities ongoing. Like for example, people are still using O365 services. They are still accessing SharePoint, for example, their OneDrive and their O365. So definitely, I feel that certain allocation of that has to be set aside for all this
the BAU
the BAU kind of things. And then where on the other end you have a pool of bandwidth allocation for you to actually conduct your migration.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Thanks for the questions, Saurabh.
Thanks, Saurabh.
A whole chain of other questions.
I hope we gave you a satisfying answer.
Yeah, I think definitely with Saurabh, Darren can chat more, right? Because that's definitely one of our most valued partners.
Yep.
And so I think this is pretty much all the questions we have today.
Yep.
Are there any things that we want to share with everyone, Darren, before?
I'm not sure if you want to talk about the Teams takeover.
Yep, Teams takeover. So as we were saying just now regarding Teams, right, we are going to have a promotion. It's going to be valid until end of the year, and this is charged based on per team.
Yep.
It does migrate all your channel conversations, all the SharePoint files you have on Teams is going to be migrated, and even GIFs, GIFs are going to be migrated as well. So this is going to be $40 per team. And of course, if you're working on a bigger project, just talk to us. We can share a bit more information with you on how we can better help you on your proposal. I might see some questions.
Yep.
We have questions. Hey, we are very excited about questions now. So thanks a lot, Mitul. What about the OneDrive file permission migrations?
Yep.
Whether it will migrate with hierarchy folder structure wise with permissions in tenant to tenant.
Actually, that's a very concise and a very
good question.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Thanks, Ethan.
So I guess short answer is yes. Definitely we do cover that during, but just that OneDrive is a different workload. When you trigger and initiate the migration, you just have to select the OneDrive migration, and then what we do is we cover the OneDrive files, the folders, the structure itself, as well as all the file permissions over. But I think one takeaway to take note is that after all this, post migration, you are still connected and syncing files, for example, still from your and you sort of let the users know that they are ready to use their destination. Just make sure you sort of sign out, unsync the files, log in, ask the users to log in using their UPN and password of their destination tenant, and from there just resync that folder. Just a note that reindexing might take some time after the migration happens. So typically we would love to perform the migration probably on a Friday night, for example. By Saturday it'll be ready. Give it a day or half a day for the reindexing to happen on backend on Microsoft's end. And then on Monday, when user actually log in and pointed towards the destination tenant, they'll be able to see the files itself. Yeah.
So I see the question. There's one stated, sorry if I read it correctly, whether it will migrate with hierarchy folder structure, vice with permissions in T2T. So I believe that will be covered as well.
Yes,
okay.
That is covered as well. Yeah,
sure.
Good question, because the answer is a positive from us.
It's always a yes, but of course, any point of time you have any questions, not only during the session, but you can always reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to assist you.
Yeah, so this is definitely a new initiative that we have from Asia Pacific team. That for every conversation that you're having, you, regardless of your project size, you will be able to speak directly with the Bitseries Solutions team. That's pretty much us. As we are pretty much a small team, you can talk to us all the way from technical to pricing. So we will be able to kind of take care of everything for you. But most importantly, we would like to hear more from you on how can we better let you be our best advocate when it comes to migrations. If there's anything that you think that potentially you would like to discuss with us on, again, our email is on top. You can always just email Darren or myself, and then we will set up a call for you to talk with Thomas. And as you can hear, Thomas comes with like tons of background. He has been a partner with us before, so and now he's with us.
Sure.
Okay, one more question. How do you look at other workloads like Yammer, Flow, Power Apps in tenant-to-tenant migrations?
Yeah, so right now, like what we shared just now, a few of the workloads that we cover are Teams, OneDrive. You have your mail migration, you have SharePoint, and more. But for the app side of things, like for example, all your Flow, your Flow, for example, you use Microsoft Flow to do all your workflows up, and you have all the templates. All of this, although we don't cover, but then again, we can take this back as a feedback to back to our
I think it's about
consistent.
I think it's about continuously hearing your feedback, and we do acknowledge you mentioned about Yammer, Flow, Power Apps. It's certainly very important in the ecosystem because of from a productivity suite standpoint. And I think we have a couple of conversations even on a monthly discussion with our product team to really take this in. I do know that this is already in in some of the discussion, but it's probably on the initial stage. Perhaps what we can do is that if you have such requirement, talk to us. We want to hear more how we can also support you, in the individual workload that you mentioned. And if it's really something that I think where we moving ahead, where we think really is something that is very relevant to the business. We are certainly happy to bring this up to to support the partners using this.
And I think there's not many partners that know this, but actually Bitthailand migration with engineering team, it's quite significantly focused in Singapore office.
Yep.
So it's right in this beautiful office that we are in right now. This is only our back office. Can you imagine how
We're trying to find a really good spot with all the mountains, or we call it hills behind.
This is Singapore.
Yeah.
Sorry, no mountains, but hills.
Only hills. Yeah.
Probably the best view we can get.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we are pretty much like near to all the big tech. This is kind of like one of the tech areas right now. Yeah, so we have Oracle near to us and all these other organizations. And so feel free to let us know further what you think, because we would want to hear more regarding all the other applications that you're talking about.
Yes.
We do want to initiate a lot more conversation so that we are in Asia, so we are very near to the action. We can basically just do a feedback and get back to you. And so keep thanks again, Saurabh, for the comments. And I think with this we probably can wrap it up. This has been a fun 1 hour. It's our first session.
Yes,
it will
definitely not the last.
It will not be our last unless you guys are sick of looking at us, but I hope not. Yeah, so just if you have any questions, you can send us an email directly. You probably have been talking to a Bitthailand person. Usually it's just either Darren, myself, or Thomas. So you can just drop us an email and then we can take it from there. But otherwise, we're gonna wish you a very good day ahead, or if this is your evening time, then a good evening. We'll catch up with you very soon.
And I think if you like this, leave a comment, smash the like button, and we'll
Like and share.
Like and share.
I think we also want to. This is definitely our first session, and if there's certain content that you would like to hear, or to speak to us, we're more than happy to arrange one. Perhaps now is the first session. Maybe the next one could be in December, January. I'm not really sure, depending on what's the planning like. But we really want to hear from you. What you want to hear, what you wish to us to actually run through. Then we can plan the next one. But most importantly, you can subscribe or even like our video. We really appreciate it.
And we'll see you on LinkedIn.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.